The UAE announced that any attempts by Israel to annex the West Bank would finally cross the red line and destroy the Abraham Accord. Israel has threatened to annex the West Bank in response to many European countries finally recognizing a Palestinian state after Israel's genocidal action. The fact that Israel is engaging in military action in the West Bank exposes the obvious lie that Israel was ever at war with Hamas. Israel has been waging war against the Palestinian people, and the UAE is fake as fuck. What do you mean Israel just now crossed your red line? Not them bombing hospitals, not them burning children alive, not them targeting and killing Palestinian journalists, not the International Court of Justice finding Israel guilty of committing a genocide, and the top international genocide scholars agreeing with them. The UAE and these Arab countries are complicit as fuck. How are you going to allow Israel to commit all these crimes against your Palestinian brothers and sisters and maintain normal relations with them this entire time? What these Arab leaders been doing instead have been calling out Hamas, calling for Hamas to lay down their arms, which would essentially be suicide for the Palestinian people. The UAE has called for Hamas to disarm, which will essentially create a situation where Israel can do whatever they want to the Palestinian people with impunity. And you think the Muslim Zionists in the UAE don't know this? Of course they do. They are Muslim Zionists who enable the Israeli project the same way that Christian Zionists enable the Israeli project in the West. They are sellouts of the highest order. The most influential leaders of the global majority met at the Shanghai Cooperation Summit to declare an era of multipolarity, and the Western corporate media is not taking it well. Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, and Kim Jong-un met to discuss and promote a global order based on cooperation, peace, and stability. Quick, someone stop them! And of course, our batshit crazy neocon controlled media saw our global leaders come together to promote peace, and they was furious at them for it. And they now call them the new axis of evil. The new axis of evil? Are you serious? Bro, the United States and Europe is currently funding a whole lot of genocide and destabilized entire regions. Meanwhile, they have the nerve to call Russia and China the axis of evil? Absolutely delusional. The United States is engaging in economic war and sanctioning 1/3 of the world's population. Meanwhile, they have the nerve to call other people the axis of evil after being victims of this unfair U.S.-led global order. The global majority is finally coming together and saying enough is enough. As Americans, we should be calling for peace and cooperation with Russia and China for the prosperity of all. Our corrupt ruling class does not want that to happen because they directly profit from war and conflict.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? We are back once again. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. The streak continues. We're back once again. A lot of stuff to cover. The main story I'm going to get to here very soon is Donald Trump. And as MAGA is pretending that he's ending the wars, he's openly preparing against war, for war against Venezuela. And I mentioned this in our coverage of the Shanghai Cooperation Summit. Compare United States leaders to the leaders in what they call the axis of upheaval, the new axis of evil. During this meeting that they had, Xi Jinping and Putin, Modi, Kim Jong-un, they made appeals to the entire world because they knew that billions of people will be listening to the words that they say. They were appealing for global cooperation, fairness, stability. Not even revolutionary. There are a lot of leftists who criticize them for not being revolutionary enough. They simply say, man, we need fair markets. We can't have one hegemon that is dominating the global order at the detriment of the global working class and other nations, essentially calling for peace. And the reaction of the West and the neocons and the people who I despise, the dominant neocon narrative that is dominant on both sides. We have a true uniparty where they have the same vision and goal of full spectrum dominance. And when I get to my show earlier, when I get to the segment later with Venezuela, that's something that should anger everybody. As Xi Jinping and Putin is talking about expanding life expectancy up to 150 years, as Xi is constantly bragging about uplifting his people out of poverty and decreasing the stress of their lives, making life a little bit easier, as they are talking about building, and as China builds, the United States is obsessed with bombing, domination, sanctioning, starvation, genocide. It's a true genocidal psychosis in the West. And being a leftist in the United States, and I mean a true one, a true anti-imperialist revolutionary, it's kind of torture because we're being gaslit. We're gaslit because we look at the crazy politicians, we look at the crazy neocon ideology that we are told is normal. And we see it as a psychotic, violent, brutal ideology that it truly is. We see these evil criminals who just casually and nonchalantly support and promote genocide, talk about building beach resorts in Gaza. And then as leftists, we're like, hey man, you guys see these people are crazy? And we shouldn't support a Nancy Pelosi. We shouldn't support a genocide Kamala Harris, a Jim Crow Joe, genocide Donald Trump, these Zionist control puppets. And then everyone look at us like we're crazy. Being a leftist in the West is hard, man. Because I go on Red Note, you talk to our Chinese comrades, they're like, yeah, of course Zionism is evil. Of course you shouldn't support these parties. But in the West, we're gaslit to death. We're told that Kim Jong-un is the evil one. North Korea is evil, even though they're not genociding anybody. What country have North Korea bombed? There is a new study, and it was new reporting that came out that once again affirmed that the CIA engaged in chemical warfare, confirmed in the Black community in the 1970s, testing military innovations in chemical warfare. They wanted to see how this kind of stuff worked. They used it in St. Louis, and there are people who are struggling with cancer to this day. The West, liberal media, Western chauvinists, they refuse to cover their stories. There was another breakthrough story about this recently that went viral. Is Kim Jong-un responsible for poisoning our community? Meanwhile, you got niggas, you got motherfuckers out here talking about, oh my God, North Korea is a threat to America. I'm gonna show you guys their articles where they talking about how evil his 12-year-old daughter is. So there was a comment in one of my recent videos like, man, why you always come on live and talk about how propagandized the West is? I'm trying to wake my brothers and sisters up because I see people repeat corporate media narratives. Like you have a lot of MAGA chuds repeating the narrative that Donald Trump is waging war against Venezuela and attacking narco boats. Fam, they had a boat of 11 people on it. It wasn't a large container ship. 11 people on a boat. And Donald Trump and the Trump administration is telling you with a straight face that they bombed that boat because it was a drug operation. Fam, what kind of drug operation takes up that much space in a small boat and have 11 other human bodies on there instead of room for the cargo? I'm not a drug lord, but it's common sense. That's not how this shit works. You want as much space for the cargo as possible. So why would you have 11 people on the boat when you are shipping drugs? You dumb Americans. Zero evidence that it's a drug. It doesn't even make sense. You guys think they transport drugs with 11 people on there? No room for the drugs? What are they transporting 1 pound? What kind of operation is this? That's what they want people thinking. And MAGA people in America just repeat it. Even liberal media not questioning them directly on a motive of what this really about. Yeah, people, small ass boys, they telling you they have an international drug shipping operation. They want you to believe that Venezuela is responsible for the fentanyl crisis in the United States, but they shipping drugs on this small ass boat with 11 motherfucking people on it taking space. What are they doing? Shipping 1 fucking pound at a time? Bro, you guys have no idea. I just see this shit. It's crazy to me that Americans fall for this. There are MAGA people that are clapping back at Democrats. They clapping back at anyone critical of this operation. They saying, "What, you think that we shouldn't go after drug dealers?" You think people on the right say, "You think we shouldn't go after drug dealers?" You really think that's what we're doing? The CIA is the biggest smuggler of drugs in modern human history. Guys, I can only laugh at this stuff. Like, it's so depressing. Like, what's happened to the Venezuelan people, what's going on in the world right now is extremely depressing. Only thing I can do is laugh. Just like George Carlin said, he famously said, like, at a certain point, I'm like an observer, and only thing I can do is laugh at the stupidity, because this shit works on people. You got the entirety of MAGA Twitter saying, "What, you don't support Trump taking out drug dealers? 11 drug dealers on 1 small boat?" All right, let me get to the first story. I'm going to get to Venezuela later. I want to cover this because I want to do a quick update because I've been doing a lot of coverage on the Shanghai Cooperation Summit. It's a pretty big deal, man. You had the global majority. They're not like hiding that the fact that they want a new global order. I showed you guys Fareed Zakaria. I showed you guys quote from both the right and left corporate media because they realize that there's been a massive blunder that is bipartisan, where India is like, "Hey man, I support the idea of having a multipolar world more than a United States dominated order," which is a massive blunder. And you even see Donald Trump, who is posting his L's. Looks like we've lost India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China. Xi Jinping is just some guy who likes to fucking build. China is a country that just want you to buy their damn products, okay? A country that is committing a genocide. Like the political lore. I'm sorry, I know I offend people sometimes. I know I do. But I'm sorry, the political lore of white America baffles me. Because I explained before, Trump is the king of white people, man. This is their fucking guy. One of the most successful modern politicians in history. This is their great thinker. This is their intellectual heavyweight. This is the guy they tell you that God ordained to become president. May they have a long and prosperous future together. Like, what are you even trying to accomplish here? This is just pure posting your L's. And what I've been seeing from the media, and the reason why I've been enjoying this story, is because it's been a lot of just the West posting their L's, just being in full-fledged cope mode, not even caring about how dumb they look in the process. You have the EU, you have Europe. They're like, "Oh my God, this is so dangerous." The BBC is running nonstop marathon segments. "Oh my God, this is so dangerous. Xi Jinping has came out as a great winner. The China century is going to be so horrible." Bro, China has been nothing but gracious to the EU. China has been a blessing to the EU. Meanwhile, you have the EU psychopaths who have a fixation. And just like Zelensky, just like our ruling class, to be clear, they are not representing their people. They're not operating on logic. They are puppets of the United States empire. We explained before, and this is why leftists oppose NATO. This is why we understand that the EU is an imperialist structure. It's an imperialist structure designed to serve the United States and the United States empire. So why would EU allow the United States, the country that invaded, destabilized countless countries over the last few decades, the country that genocided the Native Americans, had the black codes, the slaughter of African Americans that white people don't like to talk about, thousands and thousands of them lynched. You really trust them to be the leader of this global order? How do you allow that to happen? These people are bought off. And they will spin you narratives that inherently don't even make any sense. It was the Soviet Union that bailed out and saved Europe and saved the world from Nazism in an era where Europeans was playing pussyfoot with fascists. They was playing soft with Hitler and the fascist parties that was developing out of Italy and Germany, and they directly financed and led to the rise of Hitler. And then you had the based-ass Red Army that put those goons down. But you have Donald Trump, you have the entirety of the Western chauvinist, capitalist ruling class who's completely rewriting history. That's why a lot of these right-wing Gen Z kids are cooked. They're not taught the real history because that would be critical race theory. I don't want Jimmy to hate his own people. I don't want to teach Jimmy anti-patriotic shit, so we're not going to tell him the truth. We're going to tell you that America defeated the Nazis, even though the Soviet Union is responsible for 80% of all dead Nazis in World War II. Repeat after me, shit libs. The Soviet Union is responsible, here it is, 80% of dead Nazis came from the Soviet Union. But every single white boy wants to tell you the story about how the United States, this is what Pete Hegseth says, this is the official position of both our parties, by the way. Biden said the same thing. 80%. Sorry to use AI. I just couldn't find a quick source for this. 80% of dead Nazis came from the Soviet Union. But you want to know what they tell you today? This is not a random person I'm picking out for a clickbait video. This is the EU's foreign policy chief. This is one of the most highest level thinkers of Europe. Someone who we have featured on RBN before. I don't know if you guys remember. The second I saw her say this, I'm like, oh, here she go again. The EU foreign policy chief has been selected by the United States and by neocons to have the most insane anti-Russian derangement that you can possibly think of. And now here she is. And it's hard to tell if she's really this fucking dumb or she's planning a narrative. She claims that Russia and China had nothing to do with the victory at World War II. If I can get it. Oh, come on. Let me refresh it here. Oh, come on. Also, let me see. Man, I don't know why this. Let me see if I can play this link instead. Hopefully I can get this one to work.
You know that Russia was addressing China like you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. And I was like, okay, that is something new. But then you can see, first you can, if you know history, then, it raises a lot of question marks in your head. But I can tell you nowadays, people don't really read and remember history that much, which is that, you can see that they buy this narrative.
The narrative that is true that the Soviet Union and China played a gigantic role in defeating both Nazis and the Imperial Japan scum who committed massive war crimes against the Chinese, who is easily one of the biggest victims of World War II, and no one in the West talks about how much China sacrificed to defeat the Imperial Japanese scum and the Nazi scum who allied with them. But the new narrative that is now canon, according to the West, you had Trump, who also said that, Russia and China need to thank us for victory. You guys have no idea the level in which Americans and Europeans are propagandized. This is why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. Like, if you poll Americans, how many of them will tell you that America defeated the Nazis and not the Soviet Union? This is not a random person. Once again, it is the head foreign policy chief for the EU who constantly says crazy batshit stuff all the time.
That Russia was addressing China, like you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. I was like, okay, that is something new.
That is something new. So she was watching the celebration that China had with Vladimir Putin in Russia and me and their allies celebrating their victory over Imperial Japan. And these neocons legitimately believe. Well, the thing is, do she believe this, or is she purposely spraying this narrative? Because I can see it being both ways, to be honest. I can see her being a dumb Nepo baby who was fed lies her entire life, but I also can see her just being a propagandist as well. Choose your path. I think both of them are legitimate. But these are the people who run Europe. These are the people who bankrupted Europe. These are the people that said that Russia is going to pay a gigantic cost for this war. Now you have Germany's BlackRock prime minister, you had Emmanuel Macron, you had Keir Starmer. They all came out and said that we need to cut social programs, including healthcare and pensions for our own citizens in order to wage war against Russia. Take that, Putin. These people are taking Europe. They destroyed Europe as any sort of continental power. They're a complete joke. That's a puppet of the United. This is someone who is taught and trained by UK and US propaganda. Her life might as well be completely fiction. I explained many times before. The elite academia. Look at all the doctorates that I stole, that I confiscated because I exposed them as being intellectually shallow. It's almost like the more entrenched you are, the more you climb the ladder, the higher your degree is within Western intellectual circles, the bigger fraud you are. You'll be more likely to be intellectually shallow if you have a STEM doctorate degree in political science, some fucking shit like that. You know what I mean? But let's listen to this insanity one more time, and I'm gonna show you guys China's response.
China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. I was like, okay, that is something new. But then you can see, first you can, if you know history, then it raises a lot of question marks in your head. But I can tell you nowadays people don't really read and remember history that much, which is that, you can see that they buy these narratives,
This is why I do what I do. This is why we need educators. This is why we need our own propagandists. This is why we need to get to the children early, because if you're not teaching your child the truth about revolution, socialism, and class war, you allow the capitalist class to. That's what happened to people like Pete Buttigieg. The people have Marxist fathers and mothers, and then they end up becoming a neoliberal. If we don't make an active and concerted effort to fight against the active attempts by the ruling class to rewrite history, they will forever control the narrative. They don't give a fuck. They would completely change history with zero shame. If it wasn't for tanky pushback, if it wasn't for tankies like myself and my friends, the West will completely rewrite the narrative about World War II. It would have been all about the United States bailing out France, and they marched through Germany and took out 80% of the Nazi army. And we will be speaking German. You hear this all the time. We will be speaking German if it wasn't for us. So we got to be active in information warfare, and that's what I'm passionate about, because the only information warfare that was engaged in the United States is social democrat scum who believe the narrative about the DPRK. These are the social democrat scum who believe that Putin is an evil tyrant and China is a secretly capitalist country that is exploiting the working class. Those were the big academic thinkers of our time before RBN. In the new era of leftists who decided, like, bro, we're not going to bend to the Democratic Party after Bernie Sanders. We're going to double down and shift farther to the left. It's pathetic. There's so many people that after Bernie lost, they're like, fuck, we tried. I might as well concede and become an ordinary liberal now. Might as well support a Democrat every 2 years. What a fucking pussy. You gotta know, when Bernie lost, I'm like, fuck, I'm becoming a tanky. All right, let's continue. All right, this is China's response to this nonsense, because I'm not picking on a small profile person just for clicks. I explained to you that was the EU's foreign policy chief. So do you understand how dumb you have to be? Well, the statement you have to be so inaccurate for China to come out with a statement afterwards, essentially calling you a dumbass. So China was like, can we condemn these idiots at the EU?
欧盟有关官员的言论充满了意识形态偏见，缺乏基本历史常识，公然鼓噪。
See, that's the nicest you're gonna get official from China telling the world that you're a straight up fucking idiot. You can hear the frustration out of this guy's voice, and we've seen him many times before. He's the Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson. He always comes out with a lot of great statements, and he delivers it in a perfect way. Let's continue.
言论充满了意识形态偏见，缺乏基本历史常识，公然鼓噪对立对抗，既是对二战历史的不尊重，也损害欧方自身利益，十分错误。
It is preposterous and irresponsible. China firmly opposes and strongly condemns. Anyone who stands for truth should oppose that and condemn that, right? But this idiot, I could do a whole 1 hour live stream breaking down all the clips. Whenever she comes out and gives like a public speech, whenever she has like a town hall, whenever she has like an interview like this one, she always goes viral. Can you guys not hear it? Either way, he wasn't speaking English anyway. I'm gonna reload it just to make sure the audio works. I don't like being bitch screen for that long. There we go. You guys couldn't hear it. Damn. It doesn't matter because they wasn't speaking English. So essentially, they said in a very nice way that this dingbat here has no business being on the global stage. And I could go all day about this person who is, once again, the EU foreign policy chief. She's now a small fry. And let me know in the chat. I'll watch the chat and make sure the audio is okay. Zoya, let me know. I got to make sure I stay on top of that because this shit is glitchy as fuck sometimes. I'm going to play this one clip here to show you guys the level, the high level idea that's involved at the highest levels of the EU. Now let's play this clip without any more comments.
You know, the Chinese are very good at technology, but they are not that good in social sciences. Versus, you know, the Russians, who are not good at technology at all, but super good in social sciences. So what are they doing? All the actors who are trying to make us weaker, they are actually, you know, finding the little fires that are existing in our society and pouring fuel into those, and both sides, so that, you know, suddenly you have, you know, really minor issues, really big fires, and everybody's like, where did that come from? In the age of social media, especially the attention span that people have, it is very easy to ignite people, to be against something, and this is very hard. I don't have, you know, a formula how to address this and get it all right, but I think it requires an effort from all of us.
Where do I even start with this dingbat? So according to her, she spread some bullshit in the beginning that I can only describe as pure racism. Russia is not good at the social sciences. You know, they're all crazy over there. China, you know, China, they're good with the maths. And she blames China and Russia for people in Europe being dissatisfied over their country's governance. Do you understand how smug and how arrogant this generation of the ruling class is? It's never their fault. It's not their fault that Congress in the United States, for example, has only a 20% approval rating. It's not their fault that European leaders are massively disliked by their populace, so they got to engage in authoritarian policies to maintain control. It's not their fault, Zoya. It's the fault of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping doing what she describes as poisoning the discourse. Did I get that correct? Do you guys... that's my best translation of what this dingbat crazy neocon, who is once again the highest of intellectual thinkers in the EU. What's poppin', Zoya? Do you join for any reason? You know, I always love to have you here. What's poppin', Zoya?
This bitch. Okay.
Zoya loves Zoya's life.
She's older than I am. She got a Soviet education. Her dad was in the
you got the deep on her.
Yeah, dude. Her dad was in the Communist Party. He ran the banking system. And
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So she knows exactly what she's doing. Estonia sided with Germany. They had a massive white supremacy problem that never kind of went away. And they still use swastikas and all of that. And they were censoring Russian speakers just like Ukraine was pulling. So she definitely knows the role of Soviet Union. She's just lying.
I'm glad he joined to share those deeds. You know she's a fucking Nazi. Every time I see her, bro. Every time I fucking see her, she's saying the most craziest shit. The most craziest anti-Russian shit you will ever see. I know if she was American, she would definitely be in the Klan. Like, you look at her. Like, she's a hardcore supporter of the Banderites. And you said her father was a like that's.
Yeah,
he was just
the Communist Party, but he flipped as soon as it was 1989 and Soviet Union was collapsing. He actually helped spread propaganda, and then he became later the first prime minister, and then his daughter. You know, so it's definitely a family sellout dynasty that were like, fuck the Soviet Union, we want to get ours. And they were involved with European banking, and he was involved with the European Transportation Commission after Soviet collapse. So this is just one of those families that was, like Gusanos, that are like, we're sad that our family wealth was taken away by the Soviet Union. And they got in good with the Europeans through banking and betraying their comrades. So she's a traitor to the Soviet Union. She knows exactly what the history is. And she's just sitting up here like, ha, I guess we forgot history.
These people are so evil, man. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. I'm glad that you shared that. But this is the like I think this Che Boyle, this is big shout out to him, friend of the show. We had him on a few times. This is the cream of EU intellect and diplomacy speaking. And compare these leaders to the leaders we showed you during the Shanghai Cooperation Summit. We showed you guys the speeches from Putin and Xi Jinping. Zoya, the difference between Xi and Putin and this dingbat is as wide as the fucking ocean. Like this is it. You couldn't get a greater contrast between the quality of leaders. Like even someone like Claudia Sheinbaum. Like the difference between her and this EU scumbag is extremely vast, and that's why the Western establishments hate Claudia Sheinbaum. They always sneak dissing her because she's uplifting the Mexican people out of poverty. But anything else you want to add about her, Zoya? Anything else you want to add before I move on?
And just she's trying to insult Russian academic achievements. They had 99% literacy rates. You know, I mean, Russia's where the periodic table of elements come from. They reach space first, and she's just pushing this narrative that they're still using like washing machines to fight Ukraine, and that Russia really can't build anything. Her and Ursula, they literally were saying this in the EU on the floor that Russia can't last because we're using washing machines for parts to fight Ukraine. So they're the propagandists of the highest order. I just wanted to hop in for that context. I'm always here for the Kaja Kallas derangement.
Yeah, Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Much love for you, my friend. Like this is. You can tell she's a Banderite. Like that's a real intense, like Russian hatred, racism of the Russian people. We explained many times before the Banderite Nazis in Ukraine. One of the reasons why they wanted to purge ethnic Russians from their country is because they view Russians as impure white people who was conquered by the Mongols. So they view them as a conquered people who genetics are impure. They call them, in their language, they call them agenic filth, agenic Russian filth, pretty much alluding that they're more Asian than Russian. These are the kind of things that the NATO Bernie Sanders left would never talk about. Like this is why the Peace Corps warned Black volunteers in Ukraine, like, bro, if you go here, they're going to call you a monkey. They're going to call you all sorts of N-words. Because we're not talking about, it's even inaccurate to call them neo-Nazis. These people are straight up Nazis. They are supportive of a Bandera, who have this intense anti-Russian hatred. And you can see it in her, which is why she's in the position that she's in. I'm going to show you guys some more. I'm going to hard pivot here. Let's get back to some more meltdowns. I've been bathing in neocon tears over this grand celebration of an era of multipolarity, because you guys realize there was millions, perhaps maybe hundreds of millions of people that are just celebrating the image of what happened. Like I've seen there were so many posts on Red Note. There's so many Russian patriots. There's so many people who see these images of Xi Jinping and Putin. They was getting emotional, like seeing this, and there's so much pride in seeing their country being the ones leading the way on this multi-world order. So as they are celebrating, everyone in the West is melting down because they know what this really means. So this is not a long clip. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but you got to know I have to show you just a little bit more. I have to show you at least a little bit more cope and what these crazy, batshit crazy motherfuckers are saying about China, Russia, North Korea, India, the global majority coming together and saying we want world peace.
All right, the axis of evil. You probably saw the pictures in the tape and so forth.
The axis of evil. There it is. You guys see the narrative that they've been pumping into white boomers? Let me know if the audio is good as well. Guys. The axis of evil. Xi Jinping and Putin gave speeches like, hey, I wish we have a cooperation together, even with the United States, for the betterment of humanity, fairness for all. And then Larry Kudlow, like, fairness for all, they're the new axis of evil. I laugh at how deranged the ideology of right-wing white America actually
All right,
is.
the axis of evil, you probably saw the pictures in the tape and so forth, China and North Korea and, of course, Russia. Awfully bad stuff. Joining us is Gordon Chang, Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, a chap who knows a lot about this.
They love this guy. This guy has been wrong about fucking everything for decades. This man wrote a book in like 2002 describing the fall of China. This man has been predicting the fall of China for 25 fucking years. And he wrote another book around like 2005, 2006-ish. I don't know his fucking biography. Around that time, where he was describing how India will quickly replace China because India is embracing neoliberal capitalism while China is embracing Marxist-Leninism. And that will lead to the downfall of China. And we will quickly see India replace China. Like, bro, this man has been wrong about fucking everything. And he's rewarded for it, bro. You see him everywhere. He's on every single Fox News channel, Fox News, main channel, Fox Business. He'll be on CBS. They're like, hey, we got Gordon Chang to explain to you why fucking Chinese people are evil. Trust him, because he kind of Chinese-y, isn't he? He kind of Chinese-y. So trust him when he tell you that Chinese people are evil. This is our strategy that we use. But let's continue.
Gordon, just looking at it, the axis of evil, it looks like a very bad thing. It looks like to some extent they're thumbing their nose at the United States. They're in Shanghai for this meeting and all this fancy Chinese hardware, blah, 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 blah. What are we going to do about it? What does it mean to you that they've done this?
Well, I think Xi Jinping is just trying to show how strong China is. He's doing that primarily for the Chinese people because the Communist Party is insecure. He wants to show that the Communist Party is responsible for the great rejuvenation of China. But the secondary audience is the rest of us.
So when we have EU, NATO meetings every month, like we do, when we come together and gather, that's good because we are engaging in strategic partnerships. Whenever China meets with their partners and friends, it's nefarious and evil because they are trying to flex their power. They're trying to intimidate the United States. The childlike and downright evil ideology of these people is insane.
They're trying to intimidate us into submission, which is why we saw all these nuclear-tipped missiles in this parade, including their new one, the DF-61, which looks like a monster, Larry. But I think that this betrays a weakness because, as that ancient Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu said, when weak, appear strong. And Xi Jinping, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, this Communist Party, this communist media is really going off the charts in terms of trying to intimidate us with their weaponry.
Well, I think
so. The West engaging in genocide, good. Burning children alive, good. Bombing hospitals, good. Executing journalists like Israel does, good. Military parades, that's where Gordon Chang draws the line. That's where you step into the range of authoritarianism. This is the dominant ideology of white America. This shit is crazy. This is conservative. We are a conservative country. This is the kind of shit that Democrats and Republicans believe. We gotta be China. Don't you know China's doing military drills? Yeah, I know Israel just engaged in a pager attack that blew children's face off. Israel literally blowing people's face off with pager attacks. Meanwhile, they're like, don't you know that China did a military drill? I'm glad that some of you guys can see the humor in it like I can. Because our society is crazy, man. There are a lot of people, I see people in the chat like, who watches this stuff? Guys, why do you think these polls show that Americans view China as their number one enemy? Like, people pretend that these people don't have influence, but they fucking do. But why do you guys think that it took until now for the American people to turn to Israel? I think people who are independent media hosts, like the David Pakmans, the Kyle Kalinskis, I see independent media people repeat the same shit on MSNBC and CNN all the time. You guys know how I know that? Because I watch Our Enemy. And I will catch like Emma Vigeland. I will catch Kyle Kalinske. And that's why I caught Dr. Cornel West, for example, in 5D, repeating corporate media talking points about Alexei Navalny. And whenever it happens, Zoya know. I'm like, wait, what was that, bro? What was that? That was some CNN shit I just heard. Because I know what the enemy says. That's what we need to. We need to know what the neocon agenda, what their talking points are, so we can easily counter it and make and clown on it. Show just how much these people are buffoons of the highest order. A true intellectual working class, not a dumb left who repeats their bullshit narratives about how Xi Jinping is a dictator, Vladimir Putin is a tyrant who oppresses the people, and we got military marching the fucking streets. We got military taking over Chicago, taking over Washington, D.C. We got cop cities being built. You got dumb leftists that don't you know, Jared? Xi Jinping is a tyrant. They're the dumb left, and I exist to destroy these people. So I know this kind of propaganda is obvious to some of us, but you never know who's new and who's watching, who is somewhat persuaded by this shit. Here's another insane headline that we saw. Because I took it upon myself, and people who follow me on X for years now. People who follow my channel for years know, as the United States leftist and anti-imperialist, I unapologetically believe that we need to stand in solidarity with the DPRK in North Korea, who is one of the greatest anti-imperialist victories that we have seen in the modern era, who stood in other anti-imperial struggles like in South Africa and Palestine. So remember, I was on this years ago, and then that was one of the things where a lot of Bernie left like, hey Nick, bro, you're not supposed to support North Korea, bro. Hey man, we're not supposed to touch that, bro. Don't you know that they're an evil authoritarian state, bro? Like you don't understand the kind of pressures that you face when you have a platform. And there are a lot of people on the left, especially the DSA left, the anarchist left. They're like, I don't trust Nick. He's a dirty tanky. He defends the DPRK. Even though the DPRK has literally done nothing wrong. Provide free housing to their people, have clean cities, and they do the best that they can to provide for their people despite global sanctions and economic blockade of their people. And this is after them achieving a fantastic victory against Western imperialism, where they lost over 2 million people that was killed by United States imperialism, that meddled and violated the sovereignty of the Korean people. Right when North Korea was about to win the war and take over the entire peninsula, the West invaded their country and slaughtered millions of their people. Meanwhile, dumb people in the United States believe that Kim Jong-un is evil because he has the audacity to create a nuclear arsenal and build a state that is able to defend itself against the West. How dare he? How dare he learn from the mistakes of other leaders who demilitarized and then was taken out by the West? So he realized, like, hey man, we need to have something we call Jusei ideology. We're gonna have a militarized Marxist-Leninist society because we need a militarized Marxist-Leninist society to survive the nonstop barrage of imperialism that wants to punish us for the success of our revolution. So you had the dumb left, the anarchists, the Trotskyists, and the people who are useful idiots for the empire in a lot of ways. They would say stuff like, we can't trust North Korea because we can't have a militarized version of socialism. Don't you know that Kim Jong-un is an authoritarian because he doesn't allow the CIA to infiltrate his country and spread information warfare against his people? I had DPRK power hours. You guys see my rants. My thesis have always been that if you're an anti-imperialist, you need to stand in solidarity with the DPRK, who's been under assault by the empire that we pay taxes to, who does unequivocally a better job at providing for their working class, despite all the handicaps that they face, versus the skid rows that we have. the medical debt that we have. We have something called student lunch debt in this country, where children, they bring their family into debt because they can't afford the lunch that their school provides them. So we have children that goes in debt because they can't afford their lunch. Meanwhile, Americans believe that Kim Jong-un is your enemy. Quick question, by the way. Why is it okay for the UK to have a monarch and figurehead, but not North Korea? Because I learned this recently, listened to one of our Korean brothers and sisters who JB interviewed. Kim Jong-un is more of like a monarch figure. He engages in foreign diplomacy, but they actually have a parliament where they have to pass bills. They are a functioning democracy. I should say republic. I think republic is more accurate. So there are people who believe that Kim Jong-un is like this dictator, for example, who caused all the shots, but he actually has to go to parliament to get a lot of things passed and approved. So he's more of a monarch figurehead position. That's because of the Korean people, the true Korean people, the North Korean people love and admire the Kim family because of their success, freeing their society from U.S. imperialism. They know what his father has done. They know what his grandfather has done. So they admire the Kim family. They are royalty because of their revolutionary success. So that's why he has his position as a figurehead, but they have a parliament and a republic where they actually pass laws. These are things that I learned over the last few years. I'm learning new stuff about North Korea every single fucking day because Americans need to realize that every single goddamn thing they was told about North Korea is bullshit. You understand? Are they perfect? Quick question. How do you perfectly navigate a complete economic blockade by the West against your people? What other country, what is the historical precedent of a country successfully economically managing and navigating this? Kim Jong-un and his family and the government of North Korea, and the same with Venezuela and a lot of other countries as well, they had to navigate a minefield that no other leader in human history ever had to navigate. And then Western left is like, don't you know that North Korea is responsible for mismanagement? Fuck you. The economic war that has been waged against these people? Despite that, they still they can provide housing to their people. They provide healthcare to their people. They provide the best they can, despite the economic situation they've been put in by the West in retaliation of them defeating Western imperialism. All right, so let me actually get to the headline. I can rant about North Korea all day. If you're a principal communist and anti-imperialist, you have to know this stuff, guys. You have to. There was a time where I was very liberal-minded as well. I didn't know that much about North Korea. Like, you got to know how to defeat these neocons on these issues. Because this is what the neocons are saying, because they are smearing Kim Jong-un. They are very upset at what they call diplomatic wins. Look at this. I probably shouldn't spoil that headline, damn. I probably should have showed this one first. Kim Jong-un leaves Beijing with big diplomatic wins. And whenever people talk about an evil that their country commits, like you hear liberals say this all the time, it's the most racist shit. And it's one of the things that they say, I hate liberals. This is why I hate liberals. They will see Donald Trump do some evil shit like deport people. Like they will have children in cages. And then the racist white liberal will turn around like, I cannot believe this is America. This is not who we are. Who do you think we are? North Korea? Bro, you would hear people like Bernie Sanders and they say this shit all the time. Donald Trump is turning us to a Stalinist society. People have no idea the anti-communism in the left, in the West is so strong. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. People do this all the time. Oh my God! Look at all the people in prison in the United States. Look at the homeless population in the United States. This is America. What are we? North Korea? No, this is the United States. Whenever they have real criticism of capitalism, they always project North Korea. And my question to people: what have North Korea done to deserve this ire from people from the West? I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'll show you guys the poll countless times where around 1/3 of Americans said they believe we should just nuke North Korea. Like, Americans have a violent hatred of the North Korean people. Like, even among the left. What genocides have Kim Jong-un, what genocides have he been guilty of? What country has he been bombing? What sanctions have you imposed on the working class? Meanwhile, if you listen to right-wing podcasts, if you listen to the white manosphere or bootlickers, who I don't trust the CIA, but I believe anything the CIA says about countries the United States don't like. You know, those people. Yes, though. Yeah. Do you see that? I didn't find that headline from Bernie. I didn't get a chance to cover it. Stalinist. I saw there a lot of Donald Trump is turning us to a Stalinist society. Oh, here it is. Look at this. Look at this shit lib. Bernie Sanders accuses Republicans of Stalinism. Bro, they hate social democrats and democratic socialists hate communists more than they hate fascists. I'm telling you. I told you I was very dumb when I was a social democrat as well, because I used to, you guys know, I was a believer in Bernie Sanders. If I had the Marxist knowledge that I have now, there's no way I would have touched Bernie Sanders with a 15-foot pole, because I told you I have friends who don't call themselves communists. You know, I love my brother Nico House. He doesn't call himself a communist, but there's no one I love. Like, Nico's my homie. I love fucking Nico House. You guys know I love Sarah. They don't call themselves communists. You don't have to call yourself a communist for me to be friends with you. That would be absurd in a country where a lot of people are still iffy about that. Where I do draw the line, though, is I don't have interest at all with engaging with anti-communists, because anti-communism is probably one of the most violent, barbaric ideologies of the modern era, which is responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of people in the modern era. It's the belief that you need government-sanctioned class warfare against the masses whenever they rise against the elites. It's a level of elitism that transcends what you would call even normal neoliberal capitalism. Even though I guess on second thought, you can say it's a symptom of what it means to be a neoliberal capitalist. But to me, I always draw anti-communism as a red line, because do you understand the consequences from the global working class that anti-communism has wrought? Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders and these old school fucking leftist hippies, the same people who support NATO and the genocidal agenda of the West, they can't stand the USSR. They buy into all this Cold War narrative. Remember, it was Bernie Sanders who called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant. We're going to get to that here very soon. I'm already an hour in. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm trying, man. This is gonna be, I told you guys, Fridays, I kind of just lecture sometimes. It was supposed to be an hour stream. I still got one more topic to cover. All right, let's get back to, let's get back. I had this, and I kind of spoiled it. I should have saved this, because we've been talking about this a lot today. I did a hotspot on this as well today. You guys see the insane shit that other countries say about North Korea. Here's another one that's probably worse. Preteen tyrant, the world's most dangerous 12-year-old. They're saying they're already attacking Kim Jong-un's family and calling his children the most dangerous 12-year-old. What the fuck is wrong with you people? You guys see how absolutely deranged anti-DPRK, anti-North Korea propaganda is? When they're just attacking his 12-year-old daughter and calling her the future tyrant? What did Kim Jong-un even do? And I've been asking Westerners to describe this for me. What have he done to ever draw this much ire from you? And don't tell me that you care about the North Korean people, because you really don't. Because if you cared about the North Korean people, you wouldn't wage economic warfare against them. You would do everything you can to trade with them and prop up the North Korean economy to increase the quality of life of the Korean people. So don't fucking tell me that I oppose Kim Jong-un because the way he trusts the North Korean people. Shut the fuck up. That is not true. Tell us the real reason. Because if you care about the North Korean people, you will want to work with these people and you want to expand their economic opportunities. You know, like China and Russia, the same people you call the axis of evil. Now, you guys see why I'm not allowed on corporate media? Now you guys see why many channels won't have me on? I see through you motherfuckers. I see through your entire ideology. I see through your entire mythos. Calling his child a dangerous 12-year-old. And you see this common theme of the ruling class demonizing the children of non-Western children. It's the same thing they did with Palestinians. Remember how they call Palestinian children terrorists? So you understand how insane the batshit crazy genocidal West is? The same West that has no problem with killing children, with dehumanizing them. It's something they do all the time. Do you guys remember? I'm trying to find that clip. You guys remember the clip where they called Hayan Rajab? Remember the 6-year-old Palestinian girl? Oh, I found it. Oh, I can't believe I found it. Oh, Jesus. Look at this shit. I can't believe I found it. Big W. But you guys see why I don't want to be part of this club? I wouldn't take a job offer from any of these motherfuckers if they asked me to. I don't want to be part of the Bernie Sanders left. I don't want to be part of a Democratic Party. I despise this culture. You guys see why? I despise the ideology, and I don't want to be a part of it. Look, this is CNN, and do you guys believe this is a fucking accident? The 6-year-old Palestinian girl, Hayan Rajab, who was burnt alive and murdered and assassinated by the IDF, she was presented as a grown woman on CNN.
That banners have been hung from the hall. They read Hind's Hall and Intifada. Hind is a reference to a woman who was killed in Gaza.
Do you guys believe that's a fucking accident? There is no way in a million years you're ever going to convince me that's an accident. This is a common strategy by the genocidal West to dehumanize non-Western children. You have grown-ass IDF soldiers. They will say, oh my God, Israel lost teenagers. There was innocent teenagers who died in war. Hamas slaughtered Israeli teenagers. And then a Palestinian child would die. And they will say, Israel murdered a Palestinian soldier. How old was the soldier, dipshit? 13? You had to dig in the article. Guys, these are things you see. These are patterns I cannot unsee. And these are genocidal tendencies that they are airing on their front fucking pages. Just like Sarah said, this is why there's value. This is why I watch Fox News and CNN. I look at what these genocidal motherfuckers write. They are telling you, this is UK media, how they fucking believe, how they dehumanize anyone who opposes them. They are legitimately a death cult who has no respect for human life. The world's most dangerous 12-year-old, Kim Jong-un's daughter, paraded at Axis of Evil Summit as she's groomed for tyranny. Can't make this shit up, man. All right, let me move on because we already an hour in. I need to cover Venezuela. Thank you, Mara, for the super chat. Nick, I was a high school history teacher. More than half the students thought Russia was our enemy. Yeah, when you see the polls of what Americans believe about very important historical events, it'll make you extremely depressed. And that's part of the war on. It's been a very coordinated strategy to create a working class of anti-intellectuals. And anti-intellectualism has thrived in America. People proud of being ignorant. They're proud of being the adult who never changed their mind since the age of 18. We are currently living in an era of anti-intellectualism, and that's why I'm doing everything I can to fight it. That's why the working class must do everything we can to fight the era of anti-intellectualism, unlike the people like Bernie Sanders, who I strongly believe, and this is why I have a lot of hatred for people like Hassan Piker and Emma Bigland. They exist to dumb down the left. They exist to create a dumb, uninformed working class that is easy for the capitalist class to manipulate. They want people who have no critical thinking skills, so they will actually believe that the United States is bombing Venezuela because they care about stopping drugs. They want people who are dumb enough to believe that America's drug problem is the fault of Venezuela, the fault of China. Don't you know it's China's fault too, guys? Don't you know that China and Xi Jinping is directly responsible for the fentanyl crisis? Oh, you also know it's also Canada's fault. Donald Trump said it's Canada's fault. We got to put tariffs on Canada because of Canada's fault for fentanyl getting in. It's not because we put people in a position where they die because of diseases of despair. It's not because of our flawed, brutal capitalist system that forces people to become worker robots and we devalue their labor. We put them in debt. We put them in medical debt, destroy any concept of them achieving upward mobility. That had nothing to do with that. It's because other countries. You got to blame Venezuela. Yeah, you got to blame the pandas. Man, I wish I could read more comments. It's China's fault, man. It's probably Putin's fault too, bro. So we got to wage war against Venezuela because it's not our fault for designing a shit society where people are hooked on antidepressants and opioids and other drugs. We must use this. We got to take any tragedy and take advantage of it. So now Donald Trump is, do not get it twisted, in full-fledged war against Venezuela right now. You have corporate media saying Trump is engaged. Well, that strike on the boat was an act of war. They are already engaging in war. I will make the argument that the war has never stopped. Sanctions is an act of war. Biden sent fucking CIA guerrilla mercenaries who was brutally arrested by Venezuelan authorities. They send death squads. You had Javier Milei sending death squads to Venezuela to destabilize their country. They've been at war. And the fact that there's a full-fledged propaganda blitz against Venezuela, it's more evident that the war has already started, because you don't start the war and then engage in propaganda. The propaganda blitz comes with the incoming war. Why do you guys think Democrats have been so mealy-mouthed on this issue? They rely on Republicans to escalate and advance these wars against Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro himself said, let me see if I can find this receipt, there was no difference between Biden policy and Trump policy. I don't know if I can find it quickly, but I covered this before. They don't view a difference between these presidents. It's been, and Anthony Blinken doubled down on it, that we're going to continue the same hardline policies as Donald Trump. I want to see if I can find the article. Trump policies. I should have saved it. But they was bragging about, yeah, we're going to continue the John Bolton strategy. I'll find it later. But what they are convincing people, here's the propaganda they've been feeding people in order to justify these aggressive actions. Not only did they lie to MAGA and MAGA spreading the idea that Donald Trump bombed a bulk of narco terrorists, already showed just on a basic common sense level why that's ridiculous. The idea that a drug cartel that is responsible for our fentanyl crisis, responsible for our drug crisis, moving a massive amount of drugs on a small boat with 11 fucking people on it. That's not how you transport drugs. You want as much space for the cargo as possible. You're not going to move drugs 1 fucking pound at a time. Like, how much drugs went on? You guys see that video? How much drugs can they fit on that boat with 11 other people? This is what the Trump people want to convince you what happened. And MAGA people are repeating it uncritically. That they fucking got this massive drug cartel organization where they move drugs 1 pound at a time. Wouldn't that be a waste of gas and fuel? How is that efficient? Like, once again, I'm not a fucking I'm not an expert in how you run a drug cartel, but I don't think that's how it's done, my friends. I don't think you do it by these little speedboats that Trump is targeting. He murdered Venezuelan fishermen, Venezuelan ordinary citizens, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're not even trying to pretend that they have evidence. What the Trump administration is saying, they're trying to pretend that the Venezuelan people are torn about this. Like, we're seeing we will be greeted as liberators narrative being repeated once again. And it's not only just Trump, because they are making that argument very aggressively. That, hey, if we do this military action in Venezuela, if we have regime change in Nicolas Maduro, there are actually Venezuelans who are secretly happy that we are bombing their country. This is what they're repeating on Fox News. And even NPR is repeating this shit. And it's subtle propaganda. Look at this subtle ass propaganda. Liberals won't see through it. I see it through it. Hope and dread among Venezuelans as tension with U.S. escalate. What do you mean, hope? Hope and dread? I think it's just dread. So you guys see how they're planning the idea, even among liberal media, that there are Venezuelans that secretly are hoping that United States bring democracy to them. You guys see how they never changed the playbook? Never in a million years did they change the playbook. In the same motherfucking playbook where the Venezuelans would greet us as liberators. So, because why would you say this? Why would you say hope and dread among Venezuelans as if there's one side like, man, I really hope they fuck up. I really hope they fuck us up. And that's the treasonous Maduro opposition. There would be like these Maduro opposition figureheads who live in the United States because they don't care about the Venezuelan people. They will say, I think the United States need to ramp up their sanctions on Venezuela to force out the Maduro regime. If you cared about the Venezuelan people, why the hell will you be calling for more sanctions on them? These are what the ruling class, the opposition party, I should say, of Venezuela, that is what they were saying. They go on Fox News and they advocate for this shit. It's the same with the Cuban gusanos. Them class trader Cubans who have families who own slaves, who's upset because they lost their slaves during the Cuban Revolution. They then turn around. If you ask them, like, all right, well, what should we do with your criticism of the Cuban government? I think we need to escalate the Cuban embargo. There will be the Cuban motherfuckers who will call for an embargo of their own people. And then Americans believe that those white Cuban class traders are the spokespeople of the Cuban people. Let me show you guys this, because this is another example of them doing this. And I can show you guys so much example of this, because you guys know I'm a nerd. I've been analyzing the propaganda coming from these right-wing networks to sell the United States war that they are currently engaging in with Nicolas Maduro. And the argument they are using is that Venezuela is a big threat to United States national security and how the Venezuelan people want to be secretly liberated. So let me play a little bit.
Trump is putting the cartels on notice. The U.S. military obliterating a drug smuggling boat off the coast of Venezuela, killing 11 Tren de Aragua narco terrorists. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Maduro.
Look at this shit. This is what they're. You trying to tell me the United States is not the most propagandized country in the world? They are trying to convince you that one of the most notorious drug cartels in the world is smuggling drugs on that motherfucking joke of a boat. Once again, I'm not a boat expert. I'm not a fucking expert of criminal, of organized crime, but I don't think this isn't the kind of boat you use to smuggle drugs. And how many drugs are being smuggled on this quote-unquote drug boat? What is that, 1 pound that they can possibly fit? Because remember, there are also 11 people in this boat. So they have 11 people in this boat, but also enough drugs where the Trump administration is 100% sure this is the drug cartel. And this is the story that the American people are taking with a straight face. Like, are you serious, bro? Are you serious?
Nicaragua narco terrorists. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Maduro has some decisions to make.
What we have there in the Caribbean is a clear demonstration of military might. President Trump has shown, whether it's the southwest border, whether it's the Houthis in freedom of navigation, whether it's Midnight Hammer in Iran, that the precise application of American power can have incredible impacts and reshape dynamics around the world and in the region. So Nicolas Maduro, as he considers whether or not he wants to continue to be a narco trafficker, has some decisions to make.
Joining us now is Venezuela's opposition leader and the bravest woman in Latin America, Maria Corina Machado. Maria, welcome to Fox and Friends. You heard our defense secretary speaking right now. What do you think the decision will be by Nicolas Maduro? What will he do next?
Well, first of all, and on behalf of the Venezuelan people, I want to tell how grateful we are to President Trump.
You guys see, this is the dumb stuff that boomers legitimately believe, that the people of Venezuela are excited over the United States invading their country. This is the argument that they want us to be convinced of.
Well, first of all, and on behalf of the Venezuelan people, I want to tell how grateful we are to President Trump and the administration for addressing the tragedy that Venezuela is going through, as it should. Because Maduro has turned Venezuela into the biggest threat to the national security of the U.S. and the stability of the region. And this is about saving lives, Rachel, not only Venezuelan lives, but also life of American people. Because as you have said, and we have heard, Maduro is the head of a narco-terrorist structure, corporation. So
who believes this? You guys realize that there were independent investigations done by the UN. You had Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, who investigated this. You had Brazil and Lula, who said there's no evidence of this. There is not even an attempt of even trying to provide evidence that Nicolas Maduro is a drug cartel lord. But the American right is so cooked, and white America, I'm sorry, as a whole is so cooked that, as I said 1,000 times, all neocons have to do is tell white people anything about countries like Venezuela. They can say anything about North Korea, and people will just believe it. They learned this. They learned that they don't even have to pretend to prove their claims. While bring on some fucking class trader, some sellout other people, just like Gordon Chain, just like this person, to explain to white people why it's good to invade their country. This is the disgusting propaganda that works on Democrats too, guys. Because you will hear Democrats like Cory Booker and many other neocons that say, hey, man, we got to support taking out Nicolas Maduro because we got to stand with the Venezuelan people. Bernie Sanders called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant who's oppressing the Venezuelan people. They believe this nonsense.
American people. Because as you have said and we have heard, Maduro is the head of a narco-terrorist structure corporation. So Maduro has finally, it's understanding finally that the time of impunity is over, and it is in his best interest to accept the will of the people that voted against him. It's time to go.
Yep. The pressure is mounting and he is feeling more and more like a caged animal. Repression has increased. I want you to talk about that. But also just last night or just yesterday, there was some breaking news. His henchman, is the Minister of Interior and Justice. His name is Diosdado Cabello. He personally threatened you. He said, if the pressure, this is what he said, if the U.S. pressures us, we'll pressure them. Don't think they're going to attack us here and that you, Maria, are going to get away with it. You have been in hiding for over a year. Are you worried for your safety?
Well, we all are. There are more than 800 political prisoners that are under the horrible conditions, inhumane conditions. They have been tortured. They have been hurt. Everybody that...
I will say right now, Nicolas Maduro has been way too kind to all these people. You guys realize that, right? You guys realize that the opposition by Nicolas Maduro colluded with the CIA in an assassination plot on his life. You guys saw what the Democrats did to a bunch of drunk rednecks that was protesting the Capitol. Can you imagine if you had a group of Americans who tried to kill the United States president under the direction of China, of Russia? Nigga, we will kill them on sight. So Nicolas Maduro has been way too nice to his opposition, not the other way around, fam. You guys realize that, right? You guys realize that there are traitors in the opposition who are still running free in Venezuela, even though they colluded with the CIA. I'm sorry if you guys think I'm authoritarian, but I'm telling you, we ever have a revolution and I'm in charge and there's a motherfucker from, I don't know, Javier Milei's capitalist government, and there's like some sort of capitalist fucking coup in our gut, I'm fucking them up, guys. I'm sorry. If you think I'm authoritarian, I'm not allowing any sort of fucking foreign interventions. No country should allow that. So you understand how nice Maduro has been. And also remember, she is responding to a Venezuelan official responding to United States aggression. And they're painting Venezuela as the bad guys for saying, hey, man, if you wage war against us, there will be consequences. Just textbook, ordinary cry bully shit. So I could continue with this video, but for the second time, I'm going to move on. We are already almost 90 minutes in, man. These Friday rant streams are really fun. Only planned for an hour, so let's see how much I can finish up here. So essentially, Maduro and the Venezuelan people are more united than ever. So just like their failed strategy of regime changes, where they use sanction as a way to have the masses uprise and overthrow the leader, it has been shown as a failure because economic war and attempts at regime change tend to bring people together. So there are a lot of Venezuelan people who are more Western-minded, who didn't necessarily was on the side of Maduro, who now like, hey, man, I don't like Maduro, but if you fucking Yankees come over here, I'm going to fuck you up. Like, that's how a lot of Venezuelans are taking it. And this is just a one small snippet of headlines where Maduro essentially responds to the United States, bring it on. And this will end tragically for everyone involved. But I hope you guys realize it will also end tragically for United States troops, who I will not mourn. Just like the United States troops who died fighting China, any United States soldier who died fighting these Venezuelans, not only am I not going to mourn you, I'm going to laugh at your dumb ass for fighting and dying for another war for the capitalist class. I will have sympathy for these idiots. So go ahead, die for an oil company. That's what you want to do? I'm going to mourn the Venezuelans instead. That's what I'm going to do, guys. Every single time I see one of these fucking flag-draped coffins, I'm going to take a shot. Fuck you guys. I'm a fucking mourn every single dead Venezuelan I'm going to allow for every single dead U.S. soldier that comes back from illegally, criminally occupying and invading Venezuela, any terrorist that wages war against China over Taiwan, no condolences, no thank you for your services, no fuck you, enjoy your coffin. That's the energy I'm bringing to my anti-imperialism. Fuck this army warship that the left fought for. So you had the UN, and I think this is important to show, so I will show this before I wrap up. The UN had an investigation. I kind of already explained it. They had an investigation where they explained how Venezuela, there's no evidence of them engaging in narco-terrorism. There's no evidence of them engaging in the drug trade as a whole. And you know that the West is floundering and they're just making excuses. Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but they had a meltdown last year during the elections. And last year, during the entirety of the meltdown over Venezuela and their elections, you never once heard Marco Rubio or any of the neocon class mention anything about drugs, didn't you? Last year, the reason that they told you that we was going to overthrow Venezuela was because they don't have a democracy. Do you remember? There is no evidence. I'm trying to find a name. You had Insight Crime. You had the BBC. You had U.S.-controlled governments like Ecuador that launched an independent investigation into Venezuelan drug trafficking and found nothing. You had the UN director for drug control. He was the lead UN drug control agency head. He did an interview on the Gray Zone. Big shout out to Anya Parapil and Matt Blumenthal. They did an interview where the head UN drug control agency found zero evidence of any narco-terrorism and drug flow coming out of Venezuela. In fact, we all know the two largest drug producers is Colombia and Peru. This thing about Venezuela being this drug state is something that the establishment just made up. And I'm actually insulted that I had to do that info. I had to read off of that. I know you guys can tell I was reading off of that because I had to do research. I had to look into what the UN said. I looked into what the Ecuadorian investigation. I had to do research, and I feel insulted that I even had to do that because that's how much our government will lie to us. They just brought up out of nowhere that Venezuela is a drug and narco state because they realized that saying that Venezuela is not a democracy, that wasn't working to sell the war to the right wing. Because the right wing, they've heard that claim about Russia. They've heard that claim about Putin. They don't give a fuck. You're not going to sell the right wing on the war saying, oh, Venezuela don't have a democracy. But you will get these right-wing dumb MAGA fucks to support a war against Venezuela if you say they're responsible for the fentanyl crisis. So you guys understand that these decisions are made by the neocon class and every single message that they send out is calculated to win over the American people? Because just last year, Marco Rubio sent this tweet about how if Nicolas Maduro does not accept that he lost this election, Venezuela will soon find itself isolated from its neighbors. The only survivor option from the Maduro regime is to arm the armed forces and National Guard and police to kill their fellow civilians. Those serving in uniform have a historic opportunity to prevent a bloodbath and secure a peaceful transition of power. So Marco Rubio was calling for regime change, not because of drugs, but because Nicolas Maduro won an election that many Western pundits predicted that he was going to lose. Do you guys understand how many headlines like this was printed by Western media in order to manufacture the consent that Maduro was a tyrant that wasn't supported by his own people? This is the headlines you will see in the New York Times, Washington Post, for example. I've seen it. Maduro could lose. the Venezuelan presidential election, and they were putting out fake polling from U.S.-sponsored NGOs that was saying that Nicolas Maduro is losing the vote. But there have been many post-election analysis and audits that show that the Venezuelan people overwhelmingly, at around a 60% clip, support Nicolas Maduro over the opposition. So after Nicolas Maduro stopped the opposition, you want to know what the liberal class did? They engaged in the same election denialism that they condemned Donald Trump of. So you have Biden and the Biden administration and Anthony Blinken. We covered this last year. They said, we reject the Venezuelan election. It's clear. And we're going to say this without any evidence because you guys see the common pattern here. That they say stuff without evidence. They said that Nicolas Maduro rigged their election. Wait, hold up, Democrats. Hold up, liberals. Hold up, Bernie Sanders, who agree with them. I thought you guys said Donald Trump was the most evil man alive because he denied the result of the election. Now here you guys are denying the result of the election in Venezuela because Nicolas Maduro proved you guys wrong. Your guys' strategy of imposing harsh sanctions on Venezuela to turn the Venezuelan people against Maduro failed. You know why? Because they know that the West was attacking their government and they rallied behind Maduro instead of throwing him under the bus. The same way that the sanction regime failed many other ways before. I have to show this because I showed you guys how the UN, just like many other countless independent investigators, they looked into the United States claim of Nicolas Maduro being some sort of fucking drug tyrant. They was like, hey man, the United States is making this ridiculous claim. I guess we gotta look into it. I guess we gotta fucking look into it. And then they looked into it and they realized, oh, they're the Americans bullshitting us again. Americans fucking lying again. So the UN wrote a report that was an insult of their intelligence. Once again, the fact I even had to spend time debunking this is an insult of my intelligence. I feel like it's a waste of our time, but you never know who's watching this, who not part of RBN, who need to see the evidence. I have to do my due diligence, but it's an insult. I even have to spend time explaining to you guys how Nicolas Maduro is not secretly fucking Scarface, okay? Do I really have to fucking explain that? That he's not secretly the goddamn godfather masquerading as the president? In this world of fucking fake, where there's no truth, where ignorance is strength, where war is peace, freedom is slavery. In this reality, we gotta do stupid shit. Like we gotta prove with logic that a president of a whole ass country isn't secretly Scarface. That's the kind of shit we gotta do as a leftist in the United States. You guys see why I gotta laugh in order not to go fucking crazy? But despite UN investigations, despite Claudia Sheinbaum telling the world that the Trump administration is full of idiots for spreading this, here's Marco Rubio today, yesterday.
You're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about.
We are in a post-truth society. It doesn't matter if the UN says Israel is committing a genocide. It doesn't matter if the UN and even people who I view are imperial structures. Like, I don't want you guys to view me as defending UN. We have a leftist critique of the UN as being an imperial structure. But according to Marco Rubio, the UN is an organization actually a secret fucking communist and Hamas sympathizers who are also secret fans of Nicolas Maduro. I'm going crazy, man. This Like the amount of gaslighting that we are subjected to by our government. How does this not make everyone as angry as I am? Like, even if you're not a Marxist, even if you are a flag-thumping conservative, how are you not furious at your government gaslighting you like this? Like, you're not a patriot just because you support your government lying to you. In fact, you're advocating. You're surrendering your patriotic duty by cheering on cocksuckers like Marco Rubio, who says, I don't care about any investigation, I don't care about the UN. I'm telling you that Nicolas Maduro is secretly Scarface. He's the godfather. He's the kingpin. And I don't care what anyone say. You must accept the truth that the United States government is telling you, or you're a traitor. I'm tired of it, man. Let's finish because we need to wrap up. This is a long ass. Hope you guys enjoying this banger ass fucking rant stream. This is therapeutic because you guys see this shit drive me crazy, man. Let's finish. Here's Marco Rubio saying, "You can't tell me shit."
Following, and I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the UN. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about 1.5 years ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice. You're wrong.
Completely post-truth society. But I'm a hard rap because if I don't hard rap, I will keep going forever. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. We had a lot of great banger streams. Make sure you guys check out the stream I had with Sarah, my friend Eddie Liger from Midwestern Marks. Crashed the stream yesterday as well. Make sure you guys support us on Patreon, like and share. Hope you guys willing to support our channel. I know we are heavily suppressed. These long rest streams are not easy to put together, but I hope you guys enjoy this stream. I'm a hard rep. I gotta get out of here. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you guys enjoy this stream. Have a good one, guys. Peace out, y'all. Take care.